Hello everyone. Today, I'm back to continue sharing the story about the single mother, Tuna. Let's watch together. After a long period of hard work, today Tuna finally allowed herself a truly relaxing day. She woke up early, opened the window to welcome the cool breeze from her small backyard garden. The earthy scent mixed with the aroma of fresh herbs soothed her soul. She brewed a cup of hot tea and slowly stepped outside to the garden, where rows of lush green vegetables basked in the morning sunlight. Dewdrops glistened on the leaves like tiny pearls. Tuna gently bent down, carefully pulling out weeds, loosening the soil, and watering each patch of tomatoes, mustard greens, and herbs. To her, gardening wasn't just a hobby. It was a way to release the fatigue from work, to let her heart return to the simplest, most peaceful things in life. She sat by the brick wall, watching her little cat play with a fallen leaf. Everything around her suddenly felt so calm and serene. In that moment, Tuna thought of Alex. Lately, he hadn't called as often. His messages had become fewer. She knew he was facing new pressures at work. Even though he didn't say it, she could sense the stress in his weary voice over the phone. Meanwhile, across the city, Alex sat in his large office, piles of unresolved contract files spread across the desk. Several major projects had been delayed due to partner policy changes, forcing the company to renegotiate from scratch. The pressure weighed heavily on him. The phone kept ringing, meetings followed one after another. The light from the computer screen reflected on his tired face, yet his eyes still shone with determination. In rare moments of quiet amidst the chaos, the image of Tuna's garden would surface in his mind, the small girl with soil-stained hands and eyes full of peace. That image gave him strength, a quiet reminder of what he was working for. By late afternoon, as the sun began to set, Tuna sat by the bamboo fence, phone in hand. She typed a short message. "Don't stay up working too late, okay? My garden's flowers bloomed today." Smiling, she hit send and lifted her gaze toward the sunset. A few minutes later, her phone lit up with a reply from Alex. "I'm trying to finish early so I can come over. I missed the scent of flowers in your garden." She reread the message several times, a soft warmth blooming in her chest. She knew that even though they lived in different worlds, she in her quiet garden, and he in the storm of business, the bond between them remained unbroken. It was more than love. It was understanding, an unspoken trust they shared through the busiest days of their lives. That same evening, while Tuna was still tending to her green vegetable beds, the atmosphere in Alex's company meeting room was tense. He had just finished a difficult call with a partner, his expression serious, eyebrows furrowed. The entire team sat around the large conference table, white fluorescent lights glinting off stacks of charts and financial reports. Alex spoke up, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. "We need a solution immediately. If this continues, the losses from the last shipment could be significant." Silence filled the room. Some employees flipped through the logistics and pricing sheets. Others hesitated to speak. Everything seemed stuck. Alex listened to each report, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on him. For months, he had poured all his effort into closing and expediting that shipment, only to see the plan collapse like dominoes due to minor partner errors. He stood up and walked toward the window. The city lights had begun to flicker on. Outside, the streets were alive, yet he felt heavy-hearted. After a few seconds, he turned back, his gaze sharper than before. "We're not giving up. I want a detailed report on every additional expense, and I need a full review of the logistics chain. No matter how bad it looks, I want the truth." His tone was firm, but his heart was weary. He knew that if this shipment failed, it would impact not only the company's finances, but also the investors' trust in him. When the meeting ended, everyone left, leaving him alone in the quiet room. He sat down, rubbed his temples, and his eyes drifted to his phone, where Tuna's earlier message still glowed. "Don't stay up working too late." Just that one simple sentence made his chest tighten. He smiled faintly and set the phone back on the desk, whispering to himself to hold on a little longer. Despite the pressure closing in, he knew there was someone waiting for him. In a small, peaceful garden, surrounded by the gentle scent of fresh herbs. Everything seemed at first to be just a series of work-related mishaps, but over time Alex began to sense that something wasn't right. Documents went missing, data was mysteriously altered, important contracts were sent with the wrong versions, all far too coincidental. He started to suspect that someone was deliberately manipulating things from within. That person was me, Alex's former assistant. She had once been one of the company's best employees, always by his side during the early, difficult days of his career. Me had secretly loved Alex for years, but her feelings were one-sided. Alex had always kept a professional distance, seeing her only as a trusted colleague, nothing more. The day he publicly announced his relationship with Tuna, the smile on Me's face vanished. Behind her calm and composed appearance, she began to harbor a deep, burning resentment. From that moment, Me quietly began to plan. She reached out to an old acquaintance of Alex, a man he had fired years ago for dishonest business practices. That man still knew many of the company's internal systems, and with Me's help, the two started tampering with import-export shipments. They fabricated technical errors, modified figures in contracts, and caused losses that Alex had to take responsibility for, losses with no clear cause. While Alex was busy trying to save the company, Me continued to appear by his side with a mask of concern, pretending to be loyal and helpful. She tried every way to make him believe she was the only one he could trust. But each time he mentioned Tuna, Me's eyes would darken, filled with jealousy and despair. One late night, as Alex stayed alone at the office, he accidentally found a duplicate contract file in the system, one that had been secretly edited. Following the access logs, he froze when he saw the username Me. It felt like a knife had been driven straight into his heart. Years of trust, countless struggles they had faced together, all shattered in an instant by betrayal from someone he had once called a teammate. He sat there in silence, fists clenched, eyes hardening with cold resolve. There was only one thought in his mind now: to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Night fell, the city glowed in dim amber light. In a quiet cafe hidden in a narrow alley, Me sat in a shadowed corner, wearing a baseball cap, stirring her coffee nervously while glancing toward the door as if afraid of being seen. Across from her sat Alex's former friend, now her accomplice. His voice was low and gravelly, a cynical smile on his lips. Alex won't last much longer. Just one more move and everything will collapse. Me's lips curved slightly, her eyes glinting with a chilling light. He deserves it. Him, his company, and that woman, Tuna. I want Alex to know what it feels like to lose everything. The man nodded, opening a briefcase and handing her a stack of forged audit papers. Evidence they planned to leak to frame Alex during the upcoming financial inspection. Me tucked them away carefully and whispered, "We act only when I give the signal. No one must suspect, especially him." Outside, the night wind stirred the cafe curtains. Under the flickering light, Me's face was half-lit, half-shadowed, beautiful but eerily cold. Meanwhile, back at the company, Alex sat at his desk, head in his hands, surrounded by loss reports. He had spent the entire day in back-to-back meetings, desperately trying to trace the failures, but the more he looked, the more tangled it became. A sense of helplessness and loneliness crept into every breath. He couldn't understand how things had gone so wrong when he had always been so careful. Beyond the office window, the city buzzed with noise, but inside Alex there was only emptiness. He sighed softly, closed the file, and looked up at the photo on his desk. Tuna smiling in her garden while little Eri played with the mud behind her. The image brought a faint, wistful smile to his lips. He murmured, "If only I could go home right now, have dinner with Tuna, listen to Eri laugh. Maybe everything would feel easier." He stood up, put on his jacket, and turned off the lights. Stepping out into the cold night, Alex just wanted to run back to that small house of Tuna's, the only place where he could be himself, not a CEO burdened with responsibility, but simply a man searching for peace. Across the city, Mi was still plotting her next move, unaware that her web of deceit was slowly unraveling. Clues were beginning to surface, faint but undeniable, and sooner or later Alex would uncover them, or perhaps Tuna would be the first to see the truth. That night, Alex drove away from the company, his heart weighed down. The road home felt longer than usual, streetlights streaking across the car windows like blurred trails of light. His mind spun with numbers, faulty contracts, and inexplicable financial losses. Everything tangled like a web. Yet amid the chaos, one wish lingered: to return to Tuna and little Eri. When his car stopped in front of the small suburban house, all his exhaustion seemed to melt away. The warm glow from the window, the faint scent of food drifting through the air. It all brought him an indescribable sense of comfort. He opened the door and immediately heard Eri's cheerful voice. "Daddy's home. Daddy, look. I'm drawing." The boy came running, crayon still in hand, his face smudged but his eyes sparkling. Alex crouched down, scooped Eri into his arms and kissed his forehead. That innocent laughter softened his heart completely. From the kitchen, Tuna appeared wearing a simple apron, still holding the chopstick she had been using to stir the vegetable soup. Seeing him, she smiled gently. "You're home. I just warmed the rice. Everything's ready, we were waiting for you." Alex nodded, trying to hide the fatigue behind his tender gaze. He washed his hands and sat at the small table in the cozy kitchen. The meal was simple: a few vegetables, braised fish, and sour soup. Yet to him it was the most precious dinner of the day. Tuna sat across from him, placing a piece of fish in his bowl. "Eat, you look so tired," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "Yeah, things were a mess today. But being here, seeing you and Eri, it makes it all worth it." She said nothing, only looked at him with quiet warmth. The little house was peaceful, filled with the sound of clinking spoons and Eri's excited chatter about school. The golden light wrapped around them like a gentle embrace, turning that simple dinner into a picture of serenity. After the meal, Tuna poured him a cup of hot tea. She didn't ask too many questions. Instead, she sat beside him, resting her head on his shoulder. The warmth of her presence thawed the cold weight inside his chest. His voice was low when he finally spoke. "Thank you, Na. If it weren't for you, I don't think I'd have the strength to keep going." She smiled, squeezing his hand lightly. "No matter what happens out there, you still have me and Eri waiting for you here." Alex fell silent, gazing out the window at the small garden bathed in moonlight, the one Tuna tended to every day. In that moment, all his worries seemed to dissolve. No matter how fierce the business world became, this little home was where he truly belonged, where he could simply be himself. When Eri had fallen asleep, only the soft golden light from the lamp painted the walls in a warm glow. Alex leaned back in his chair, staring out the window at the quiet garden. Outside, the night breeze stirred the leaves while crickets sang softly. Tuna brought him a cup of ginger tea and set it gently on the table. She didn't speak right away, only sat beside him, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. The warmth from her touch spread slowly, easing some of the heaviness from his heart. "Don't blame yourself too much," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "No one can control everything, especially when there are things beyond your reach. You've already done your best." Alex stayed quiet for a while, then smiled faintly, a weary, bittersweet smile. "I thought I was sharp enough, experienced enough, and yet everything still fell apart. The company could lose so much. I'm afraid of disappointing those who trusted me." Tuna tilted her head, her calm gaze meeting his. "You're not failing, Alex. You're just going through a hard phase. People can lose money, lose opportunities, but if they keep their faith and courage, they can always rise again. I know you can." Her hand tightened around his. The gesture alone warmed him deeply. Some of the burden on his chest lifted, replaced by quiet gratitude. He turned to her, eyes soft. Now with you beside me, I still have a reason to keep fighting. Tuna smiled gently, resting her head on his shoulder. Her voice dropped to a tender whisper. Just don't give up. Things will get better. No matter what happens, I'll always be here, with you and Eri. Outside, a soft breeze carried the faint scent of wildflowers from the garden. Moonlight streamed through the window, casting its glow over the two figures sitting side by side in silence. They didn't need words, both understood. This was companionship, faith, and the quiet kind of love that Tuna gave him. In her heart, she wished only one thing: that Alex would find his way through the storm. She believed that a man like him, strong, kind, and full of integrity, would someday find the light again after the darkest days. For Tuna, there was only one promise she silently made. As long as you keep trying, I will always be the peace you can come home to. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight softened the sky, Tuna was already awake. She stepped into the garden, her familiar hands gently picking a few bundles of vegetables still glistening with dew. Birds chirped on the tiled roof. The scent of fresh earth mixed with tender grass filled the air, making everything feel pure and new. A while later, Alex came out, still a bit weary, but his face looked brighter than it had the night before. He looked around the garden, where Tuna was bent over pulling weeds, her neatly tied hair swaying slightly in the breeze. The sight was so peaceful he wished time would stop right there. Walking closer, he spoke softly. "You're up so early. I should be the one helping you today." Tuna turned and smiled. "You could have slept a bit longer. You were so tired yesterday." He shook his head, picking up a watering can. "I feel better out here than at the office. Maybe I should learn how to live slowly like you." She chuckled. "You can live slowly. Just don't stop moving forward." They tended the garden together in silence, the only sounds being the trickle of water and the soft rustle of leaves under the morning sun. Soon little Eri woke up, running into the yard, shouting to help water the plants. His laughter echoed through the garden, washing away the last traces of Alex's gloom. Watching the two of them, Alex felt an overwhelming sense of peace and gratitude. In that moment, he knew he had the strength to start over. He promised himself he wouldn't let hardship defeat him. Not when he still had this precious family to protect. But across the city, Mi had already begun her next move. Sitting in her private office, she stared at her computer screen filled with internal data she had secretly accessed. Her face was cold, eyes glinting with calculation. She clicked send on an encrypted file. A forged contract plan designed to make Alex the scapegoat for all the company's financial losses. Mi smiled faintly, her lips curling with bitter satisfaction. "Enjoy your happiness while you can, Alex. It won't be long before you lose everything with your own hands." She turned off the monitor and adjusted her reflection in the mirror, beautiful, sharp, but shadowed by obsession. In her mind appeared the image of Tuna, gentle, kind, yet the woman who had stolen the man she loved. "You'll pay for it too," Mi muttered under her breath, voice cold as ice. Meanwhile, in the quiet suburban house, Tuna and Alex cheerfully prepared breakfast, unaware of the storm quietly approaching, one that would soon shatter their peaceful days. That morning, sunlight blanketed the garden in gold. Tuna set the breakfast table, while Alex and Eri washed their hands, ready to sit down, until Alex's phone began vibrating relentlessly. He glanced at the screen. Dozens of messages from staff and department heads. Then a call from his deputy came in, voice panicked. "Alex, something's wrong. The news just broke. People are saying you're behind the fraud in the shipment contract. The media's all over it. Stocks are plunging, and partners are demanding a full investigation." Alex froze, speechless. Around him, Eri's laughter, the clinking of dishes, the rustling garden breeze. all faded beneath the crashing noise in his mind. What? Contract fraud? Who spread that? His voice was low, tense. I don't know. But I checked the system. There's a copy of the contract with your electronic signature. This is serious. You need to get to the office immediately. Alex gripped the phone tightly, his breathing heavy. The puzzle pieces began to align, the corrupted data, the wrong documents, the strange coincidences. And me. A chill ran down his spine. Tuna stepped closer, worry in her eyes. What's wrong, Alex? He steadied himself and set the phone on the table. There's trouble at the company. I have to go now. Please stay with Eri. Don't worry, I'll handle it. Seeing the mix of determination and weariness in his eyes, her heart ached. She held his hand. Stay calm. No matter what happens, I know you'll get through it. Remember, we're always here. He nodded, squeezed her hand gently, and hurried out the door. The car sped off under the blinding morning sun, leaving Tuna standing silently, an uneasy feeling rising in her chest. At the same time, in her downtown office, Me watched the breaking headline flash across the news screen. CEO Alex accused of contract fraud. Millions in losses under investigation. A cold smile touched her lips. Her accomplice beside her muttered. The news spread fast. He must be losing his mind right now. Me rested her chin on her hand, voice calm but dripping with malice. This is only the beginning. Soon he'll know what it means to lose everything. She closed her laptop and glanced out the window at the bright, cloudless sky. For a brief moment, something bitter flickered across her lips before vanishing. The hatred inside her had long consumed everything, even the last trace of love she once felt for Alex. Meanwhile, as Alex stepped into the company lobby, dozens of eyes turned toward him, some whispering, others avoiding his gaze. The heavy air was suffocating. He stopped in front of the meeting room door, his mind clear, his heart steeled. He knew the real battle was about to begin. Will Alex be able to clear his name and save the company? Stay tuned for the next episode.
Xin chào mọi người, rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong video của mình. Video ngày hôm nay mình muốn kể cho mọi người nghe về người mẹ đơn thân lý Tuna và những khó khăn mà Alex phải gánh phải trong thời gian này. Sau khi từ chối tình cảm của My thì My đã luôn tìm cách hãm hại Alex. Và liệu rằng Alex có vượt qua biến cố phía trước hay không? Tuna sẽ làm gì để giúp đỡ Alex? Mời mọi người đón xem ở những video tiếp theo nha. Ở những video tiếp theo thì sẽ có nhiều tình tiết hay hấp dẫn hơn. Và để không bỏ lỡ video nào thì mọi người nhớ like, share, bật chuông thông báo để nhận thông báo khi mình đăng video mới nhất. Các mọi người đã xem hết video hôm nay của mình và đã ủng hộ những video của mình trong suốt thời gian vừa qua. Hy vọng rằng sẽ gặp lại mọi người trong video sắp tới. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại mọi người nhé.